Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's favorite commando, a man so feared that the Allies nicknamed him the most dangerous man in Europe. He was tall, scarred from dueling, and famous for pulling off missions that seemed impossible. During the war, he rescued dictators, spread chaos behind enemy lines, and became a legend of Nazi special forces. But here's the part that sounds too crazy to believe. After the war, this same Nazi commando ended up working for Israel. Yes, the Jewish state, founded by survivors of the Holocaust, secretly recruited Hitler's golden boy to fight their battles. This is the story of Otto Skorzeny, war hero, war criminal, mercenary, and possibly the strangest double agent in modern history. Otto Skorzeny was born in Vienna in 1908 into a middle-class Austrian family. He studied engineering, but what really set him apart was his love of dueling. Like many young Austrian nationalists at the time, he joined a fencing fraternity. One day, in a heated duel, he took a blade slash across his cheek. The wound left him with a dramatic scar, known in German as a Schmiss. Rather than hide it, Skorzeny wore it as a badge of honor. In the macho culture of the time, scars were marks of toughness and prestige. He was also enormous, about 6'4", and with his scar and booming voice, he cut an intimidating figure. Later, Allied intelligence reports even noted that soldiers were spooked just by his presence. By the 1930s, Skorzeny was a committed Nazi. He joined the Austrian branch of the Nazi Party and admired Hitler's promise of a restored Germanic Empire. When Germany annexed Austria in 1938, he was all in. During World War II, he fought on the Eastern Front, where he earned a reputation for bravery and recklessness. But his big break came when he joined Hitler's elite Waffen-SS commandos. That's when the legend of Otto Skorzeny really began. In 1943, Italy switched sides. Mussolini, once Hitler's closest ally, was arrested by his own people and hidden away in a remote mountain hotel at Gran Sasso. Hitler was furious. He wanted his old friend and propaganda ally back. Enter Otto Skorzeny. Skorzeny volunteered for a mission most people thought was suicide, a glider assault onto a high-altitude plateau. On September 12, 1943, Skorzeny led a group of commandos in gliders that crash-landed right next to the hotel. Storming in, they overwhelmed the guards. Here's the astonishing part: not a single shot was fired. Skorzeny personally burst into Mussolini's room and declared, "Duce, the Führer has sent me to free you." Mussolini was stunned, then relieved. Together they flew off in a tiny Fieseler Storch plane. In fact, the little plane was so overloaded with Mussolini, Skorzeny, and the pilot that it barely lifted off the rocky plateau. Legend has it that Skorzeny almost pulled Mussolini's chair out to make the plane lighter, but the pilot managed to get airborne at the last second. The daring raid became front-page news around the world. German propaganda turned Skorzeny into a superstar. Goebbels paraded him as proof that Germany still had fight left. Even Churchill later admitted it was a brilliant operation. Allied newspapers, in half admiration, half fear, began calling him the most dangerous man in Europe. 2 years later, in December 1944, Hitler gave Skorzeny another wild assignment: Operation Greif. The idea was straight out of a spy thriller: dress German commandos in stolen American uniforms, slip them behind enemy lines during the Battle of the Bulge, and cause chaos. Skorzeny's men changed road signs, spread false orders, and disrupted communications. They even redirected entire Allied units in the wrong direction. For weeks, panic spread through the American ranks. Soldiers began questioning anyone with a funny accent, even their own officers. There are stories of GIs asking each other who won the World Series, just to prove they weren't German infiltrators. Skorzeny himself was never captured during the mission, but after the war, the Allies remembered the psychological havoc he had caused. After Germany's surrender, Skorzeny was put on trial for war crimes. The Allies accused him of violating the laws of war by using enemy uniforms. But in a surprising twist, several Allied officers testified that they had done the same thing in special operations. The court acquitted him. Still, Skorzeny wasn't free for long. He was interned in a camp for former Nazis, but in 1948 he staged a daring escape. reportedly with the help of former SS comrades. Dressed in an American officer's uniform, he simply walked out the front gate. From there, he became a shadowy mercenary. He worked as a bodyguard for Spanish dictator Francisco Franco, advised Juan Perón's regime in Argentina, and trained Arab forces in Egypt under Nasser. In Egypt, Skorzeny was reportedly asked by Nasser to help design a commando unit based on Nazi principles. He did so while still keeping connections with ex-Nazi scientists working on Egypt's rocket program. He seemed to be everywhere, part soldier, part arms dealer, part spy. And yet, all of that would pale compared to what happened next. In the late 1950s, Israel faced a terrifying threat. Egypt, its main rival, was recruiting German scientists, many of them former Nazis, to build rockets capable of hitting Tel Aviv. For Israel, this was existential. They had to stop the program, but the German scientists were heavily guarded and motivated. Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, brainstormed solutions. And incredibly, someone suggested the unthinkable: recruit Otto Skorzeny, the very man who had once fought for Hitler, now to work for the Jewish state. Mossad agents tracked Skorzeny to Madrid. Initially, they wanted to kill him, but then their chief asked, why waste his skills when he could be an asset? According to some accounts, Mossad gave him a simple choice: work with us or die. Skorzeny agreed. He began providing Mossad with inside information about the German scientists. He reportedly mailed threatening letters to them, tipped off Israeli agents about their movements, and even hand-delivered explosive packages. A chilling anecdote: Skorzeny allegedly helped assassinate Heinz Krug, a German scientist working in Cairo. Krug disappeared in 1962. His body was never found. Some say Skorzeny personally pulled the trigger, disposing of a man he had once counted as a colleague. In exchange, Mossad gave him protection and even, unbelievably, an Israeli passport. For years, this part of his life remained secret. It wasn't until decades later that former Mossad officers confirmed the story. Otto Skorzeny died in Madrid in 1975, still wealthy, still unrepentant. At his funeral, ex-SS officers proudly gave the Nazi salute. And yet, in a bizarre twist of history, his name is also tied to the very nation that Hitler swore to destroy. So who was Otto Skorzeny really? A ruthless opportunist who switched sides whenever it suited him? A man haunted by his Nazi past, seeking redemption? Or simply a mercenary who cared for nothing but the thrill of the mission? One thing's for certain: his story reminds us that history is rarely simple. Heroes can be villains, villains can become allies, and sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's strangest figures, hit like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on the wildest true stories from the past. Because remember, history isn't just what's written in textbooks. It's full of secrets, scandals, and shocking twists. Thanks for watching.